What's up, curious youngsters? Surely when you don't understand how something works or you don't know why things happen, you just ask questions. From normal questions like why batteries explode to more interesting ones, like whether two people can share the same fingerprints. Well, Mr. Curiosity, some subscribers are always asking questions, and some are so interesting that I included them in this video. For all that and much more, here are 20 curious questions in 10 minutes. Antonio asks, if there are no pain receptors in the brain, then what hurts when you have a headache? Although our brain can't feel pain, we need to know that everything around it does have receptors for that sensation, such as the nerves, blood vessels, tissues, and muscles that cover the head or even the neck. That's why, when these structures are affected, receptors activate and send signals to the brain to interpret as pain. And for example, one of the most common headaches is what's known as a tension headache, which happens when the muscles in the neck or head become tense and contract too strongly. Gonzalo Pinheiro asks, why do batteries explode? Maybe you've heard that some batteries, especially lithium ones, can explode. And while it would be something unusual, the truth is that it's a real possibility. And that's why some airlines prohibit carrying devices with those batteries in your hand luggage. The main reason they explode is either a manufacturing defect or an environment with high temperatures that causes a chemical reaction. For example, if we use a battery, it's likely to catch fire when it reacts with the oxygen and humidity in the environment. Stay away from batteries, Timmy. Kevin Algon asks, has there ever been two people with the same fingerprint? Fingerprints make each human being unique and unrepeatable. That's why it's not possible for them to match. No two people have identical fingerprints, not even twins. These marks on the fingertips are formed when the skin is developing in the womb, shaped by the influences it receives, including the baby's own movements. Unless the deep layer is destroyed or altered by plastic surgery, fingerprints never change and remain the same throughout a person's life. Anderson Andres Astudillo asks, where does the term "saved by the bell" come from? To find the origin of this well-known phrase, which is usually used to indicate that someone escaped danger at the last moment, we have to travel to 19th century England. It was during this time that certain rules began to be added to boxing to reduce the brutal injuries of this sport. And among these new rules was the one that signaled each round with the sound of a bell, and sometimes the fights were so tough that the bell gave the losing fighter a chance to stop taking hits, recover strength, and avoid being knocked out. Edu Palacio asks, why do we always blink? We blink so many times a day that most of the time we're not even aware of what we're doing. And the main reason for opening and closing our eyes every few seconds has to do with protecting our eyes. Because every time we do it, we spread different fluids that lubricate the eyeballs and clean away any dust particles that may have accumulated. In addition, we also blink to protect our eyes from certain factors that could harm them, such as very bright lights. Israel Santiago Portilla asks, why doesn't food come out of our mouths when we eat or drink something and then stand on our heads? One of the most common questions is why food doesn't escape from our bodies when we are upside down or even if we are in places without gravity. The reason for this is that the food we eat doesn't depend only on gravity to move through our digestive system, but rather it's the movements of our internal organs that push the food along this entire path. These movements are contractions and dilations of the internal walls, and they are strong enough to carry out digestion even if we are not standing on the ground. How interesting the digestive system is. Guillermina Martinez asks, do cats see in black and white? Cats have good vision, not only because of their 200-degree field of view, but also because of the sharpness of their night vision. And although the popular belief is that they can't see in color, in reality these felines can perceive cool tones. That is, shades of blue and green. What happens is that they can only see them if there's a good amount of light. And if that's not the case, cats interpret colors in shades of gray, which helps them eliminate distractions at night and focus on a single target when they're hunting. Olui59 asks, how do deodorants work on the armpits? Deodorant is a product we use in our daily lives, and it works by reducing the bacteria present in our sweat that are responsible for the unwanted odor. That is, they reduce bad odor, but in many cases, they don't eliminate it completely like antiperspirants do. Additionally, deodorants also have fragrances that mask any possible traces of sweat odor. Michael Quinones asks, why does salt make food taste better? Salt is a key element in cooking and makes dishes taste better for different reasons. First of all, the ions of this mineral are attracted to the water particles in the food, which makes certain molecules related to aroma evaporate more easily. This makes us perceive a much more intense flavor in what we're eating. And secondly, salt changes the texture of the food, making it release all its juices and reducing its acidity. 2 reasons why salty foods taste better. Let's see if you knew that, my friend. Luis Bene asks, why is it that when we think about food, that it makes our mouths water? Surely it's happened to you that just thinking about food makes your mouth water. And this reaction is completely normal because this thought makes our body get ready to digest food, especially if it's something we really like. That's why we don't need to be in front of our favorite dish. Just remembering it or thinking about it for a while is enough, and almost immediately our digestive system will increase the production of saliva and digestive juices. Santiago Serrato asks, what do AM and FM mean on radios? Due to the rise of the internet, radio listening is becoming less common, though many people still do it. In the case of AM radio, it means amplitude modulation, and it stands out because the waves transmitted by its antenna are much longer and cover great distances, although with low sound quality. On the other hand, FM radio, or frequency modulation, transmits with a higher bandwidth, which gives it a clear, clean, and stereo sound, but its coverage range is less than that of amplitude modulation. Elzulian asks, why do some scars fade while others stand out?
Cuando un tejido se rompe, por ejemplo ante un corte accidental o bien una...
The skin sends collagen to repair the affected area, and a kind of patch forms that we call a scar. And although some of these marks disappear, others fade but don't go away completely. This depends on age and the genetic factors we have for healing.
Y aunque obviamente también va a depender del tamaño, profundidad,
the wound and the care that
la zona mientras se está recuperando. Frederick Betzal pregunta, ¿por qué nos quemamos con el frío al igual que con el fuego? Sabemos que las quemaduras pueden ser tanto por el calor como por el frío, y en ambos casos nuestros receptores del sistema nervioso interpretarán una sensación de dolor muy parecida, pero los procesos químicos que llevan a que los tejidos se lastimen son muy diferentes. Una quemadura por frío se produce cuando tocamos algo a tan baja temperatura que el calor que generamos no logra derretirlo. Por ejemplo, si apoyamos un dedo sobre un gran bloque.
If ice is applied for long enough, the water in the cells will freeze, which causes serious tissue damage, leaving wounds similar to those caused by heat burns. That's really interesting, my friend. Andres Leva asks, in what year and in which country were USB flash drives invented? USB flash drives revolutionized the way data is stored and transported, and even though they seem very common to us today, they started being developed a few years ago at the end of the 90s. The first patent was filed in 1999 by Israel M Systems, and it is considered the pioneer of this technology. Although their product was not exactly like the one we know today since it had a cable, but at least it paved the way for the Singaporean company Trek International to later launch the first USB flash drive on the market, called TAM drive. And yes, it was named that way because TAM means thumb in English, and the device was about the size of our thumb. Polar XD asks, how is earwax formed? The wax we see in our ear canal is naturally produced by our ears. This is essential for hearing because it helps protect and naturally clean a very delicate area of our body. Earwax can be more or less dense depending on each person and particular circumstances, and it is made up of a wide variety of substances and debris that get trapped in that sticky fluid, such as viscous secretions like sebum and sweat, dead cells, dust, and hairs. Kaylin Abregu asks, how do birthmarks appear? It's quite common for babies to have birthmarks, and most of them don't pose any danger. These marks can have different characteristics and colors, and they may shrink or disappear completely over time. Only a very small percentage is hereditary, and those are very specific cases, The rest of the marks form a few days after birth and are divided into two main groups. Pigmented ones are usually dark in color and are caused by excessive growth of cells, mainly melanocytes. And the reddish or jelly-like ones, called vascular, also appear when blood vessels did not form correctly or were produced in greater quantity than normal. XM Never asks, what materials are used to make pen ink? Ballpoint pens are a great invention that seems simple but is actually quite complex. And one of the keys to their proper functioning is the ink, since it needs to have the exact density to flow correctly. Not too thick, not too thin. Nowadays, this product contains ingredients that vary depending on the final product you want to achieve, since you can work with fluorescent ink or different colors. But all inks are chemical compounds made from a mixture of vinyl resins, solvents, and the synthetic dye that gives them the desired color. F. Fox asks, why do we have lines on our hands and feet? To understand why we see different lines on the palms of our hands and the soles of our feet, we need to know that it serves a very important function for our limbs. Because if these were completely flat, we simply wouldn't be able to close our fists or hold something without damaging the skin. The main purpose of these palmar flexion creases is to allow us to close our hands, grab objects, and quickly change movements without excessive stretching that could make us uncomfortable or hurt us. What a fascinating human body. Jesus Hernandez asks, how is sugar made? Sugar is an ingredient that we're surely familiar with, but maybe we're not very clear on how it's used. Well, there are two ways to obtain this food, either from sugarcane or from the root of the beet. In both cases, everything starts with the cultivation and harvest of these plants. Once they're at the factory, they go through different processes where they're ground and pressed until they become a syrup. At that point, all that liquid is exposed to high temperatures and turns into raw sugar crystals, which are then refined to get the white sugar we know. Eric Rodriguez asks, how are subways made? Subways are a very old means of transportation, and the process to build them has changed over time. At first, traffic had to be stopped because the street was dug up from the surface, breaking the pavement to make the holes. But later, with technological advances, the excavation and construction of tunnels and stations are done completely underground. Using massive tunnel boring machines, weighing thousands of tons and stretching hundreds of meters, several kilometers of tunnels are built daily with no visible impact on the surface.